You breathe in the amber haze of an oil lamp flickering against rough-hewn stone walls, and you probably won't make it through this day without a yawn or two. It's the kind of morning in ancient Rome where the sun yawns awake behind the Capitoline Hill, and the Forum's pigeons squawk like chatty neighbors before dawn. You hear the distant clang of a blacksmith's hammer, reminds you of your own rebellious inner anvil and the faint hiss of a brazier's last sigh. Imagine it, you, perched on a low stool in a narrow alley off the Subura, sipping lukewarm, watered-down pasca, Roman vinegar drink, as you prepare for your day. Like, have you ever tried to guzzle vinegar at 6 a.m.? No? Well, consider yourself lucky and possibly more awake than most Romans. Here, in a city built on 7 hills and endless political soap operas, life moves at its own leisurely pace, like a toga-draped snail. Before we go any further, if you're enjoying this ramble, a soft click on that like button would mean the world. No, the empire. To me. And subscribing? Well, it's sort of like receiving a fresh tunic from your favorite patron, but far less itchy. And hey, why not comment below your current location and local time? I promise I won't judge if it's past your bedtime, though I might crack a sleepy joke about it. Now, one major historical fact to tuck into your toga pocket: under the Lex Julia et Papias, 18 BCE, certain regulations defined who could and couldn't work as a prostitute, revealing that the profession was legally recognized but socially stigmatized. Yes, even more complicated than your last relationship status. Scholars still debate whether these laws genuinely protected women's rights or simply taxed them for public revenue. But here's an obscure tidbit for your dusty scroll collection. Some Roman prostitutes carried tiny curse tablets called defictiones, inscribed with the names of unfaithful clients, buried in hidden corners to ensure those clients would lose their libido or trip over sandal straps. Whichever came first. I guess you could call it an ancient blackmail concierge service. And now, a little scholarly humility. Historians still debate whether these tablets were widespread enough to seriously hamper Rome's economy, or just the desperate scribbles of a few disgruntled souls. Your alarm clock is silent but relentless, the clatter of clogs on cobblestones, and you rise. It's time to apply the thick white lead makeup popular in the early empire. Yes, that's right. The very same lead that later gave you headaches, more intense than Cicero's political rants. You pat on a layer so opaque that you could masquerade as a marble statue, if marble statues moaned softly in the afternoons. Cue your first ironic smile of the day. If only you could build a career as a statue, you'd never have to argue about whether your client prefers auburn curls or chestnut waves. Ah, the joys of specialization in ancient services. You sling a small leather pouch over your shoulder filled with hairpins carved from boar tusk. Roman barbers specialized in hairstyles as elaborate as a Vestal Virgin's plait. Then, with your sandals strapped tight, you step into the golden glow of dawn, ready for clients, gossip, and perhaps a quick bribe to the local municipal guard for safe passage. Now let's ease into tonight's journey. You find yourself back in that winding alley. Yes, the same one you almost tripped over earlier when you cursed a muddy sandal sole. And it's already buzzing with the low murmur of fellow street dwellers. Remember the flickering lamp and the clamor of the blacksmith? They're your ambient soundtrack now, like a set playlist on loop. With practiced ease, you remove the shabby curtain of your room and peer into the courtyard below, where marble fountains trickle as serenely as a philosopher droning on about virtue. In a way, you suppose, your daily routine is not so different from theirs. You both work with appearances, though theirs fade with speeches and yours drip off with perspiration. Here's a cultural gem to tuck into your satchel. Some prostitutes kept small birds, often nightingales, in cages outside their rooms. The sweet trilling lured in wealthier patrons who thought, a cultured hostess. Little did they know the marketing budget was just a songbird chewing on breadcrumbs. And let's drop a second major historical fact. In the early Republic, prostitution was largely unregulated and conducted discreetly near temples. But by the 1st century CE, brothels, lupanaria, were taxed as venues of public entertainment, turning pleasure into profit, ironically as regulated as the grain dole. Scholars still debate whether these taxes helped finance public projects or simply served as a moral shakedown. You slip down a narrow stair to the courtyard, where a pair of pottery water jars stand on either side of a chipped mosaic depicting Neptune. The contrast between Neptune's regal trident and your battered clay amphora never fails to evoke a wry grin, like comparing a senator's toga to your patched tunic. 3 jokes for the road. Your vase collection is more mismatched than the Senate's voting records. Your sandals squeak louder than a disgruntled donkey, and your neighbors think the fountain's drip is the latest trend in avant-garde percussion. A moment of scholarly confession. Historians still debate whether lupanaria entry fees were uniform across social classes or varied so wildly that some patrons bartered chickens for an evening's companionship. You carry your leather pouch down the courtyard, tapping it gently. Inside, chalk for sketches of hairstyles, a small mirror chipped at the corner, and an amulet carved in the likeness of Fortuna, just in case Fortune decides to smile on you today. You pause at the stone bench, where a young scribe once doodled verses about his unrequited love for a certain bellezza, a callback to that same courtyard's poetical air you passed 2 paragraphs ago. You settle in, adjusting the folds of your tunic. Remember the toga-draped snail pace I mentioned? Turns out, snails can multitask. You sit back, let a breeze ruffle your hair, and prepare to greet your first client of the day with the same gentle professionalism that a baker uses to knead dough, though bakers probably get more thanks. The marketplace aromas drift in: salted fish, freshly baked libum, and the unmistakable tang of perfumed oils mixing in the heat, almost like a modern coffee shop's swirl of pumpkin spice. If pumpkin were mythical and spice taxed, you inhale deeply, mentally filing away the lesson that smell can be as potent a seduction as fine rhetoric. Another obscure detail? Some clientele insisted on a ritual, cleansing with rose water before the main event. Apparently, nothing says Roman romance like rose petals swirling in your drink cup. Suddenly, you're not sure whether you're a professional or a royal florist. All the while, the guard at the corner keeps one eye on a passing senator's litter and the other on a suspicious-looking fishmonger. Ancient law enforcement at its finest. You almost feel nostalgic for your vinegar breakfast, and as you straighten your posture, ready to greet the day, you can't help but think, maybe this daily performance isn't so boring after all. Sure, on paper, it's a curious blend of economics, fashion, and interpersonal diplomacy, but under these stones and dripping fountains, it's as alive as Rome itself. With that thought, you stand, brush off your tunic, and step toward the courtyard gate. Cicero might have declared rhetoric the highest art, but you'd argue a well-timed wink and a whispered verse can hold a room's attention just as effectively. And so, with the first client arriving, like a star performer on stage, your day truly begins. One measured breath, one practiced smile, and one whispered promise at a time. You step through the courtyard gate and into the blaze of midday sunlight, and it hits you like a public gossip, warm, a bit uncomfortable, but impossible to ignore. Remember that chipped mosaic of Neptune back by the water jars? It's still there, glinting in the sun, as if he's rolling his marble eyes at your daily spectacle. You pause to adjust your tunic, shrugging off sweat like a disgruntled toga. This is the hour when even gladiators consider a nap more heroic than a fight. Your first client of the afternoon arrives, a quiet merchant with dusty sandals and a mournful expression, as if he's just realized he forgot to pay his beeswax tax. Speaking of taxes, did you know that in 59 BCE, Cicero argued fiercely against taxing brothels after news broke that the treasury was running low? Turns out, public morals and public coffers have always had an uneasy romance. Scholars still debate whether Cicero's stance was genuine concern for citizens or a clever political ploy to win votes from, let's say, certain communities. While you greet him with a practiced smile, a faint melody drifts over from the nearby Thermopolium, a street food stand serving garum fish cakes and barley porridge. Here's an obscure cultural tidbit. In some courtiers, prostitutes and chefs collaborated, swapping recipes for subtle aphrodisiac sauces in exchange for early bird fish scraps. Culinary diplomacy, if you will. Suddenly, your own modest chamber seems less like a workplace and more like a fine dining establishment, minus the chefs, plus considerably more scented oil. You guide your client inside, where the air is cooler, scented by lavender sachets tucked into every corner. 3 light jokes to keep things breezy. Your lavender sachet smells better than a Vestal Virgin's prayer. Your client's sandals squeak louder than the fountain's drip. And your chalk sketches of hairstyles look more avant-garde than the Senate's latest fashion scandal. As you offer him a cushion to sit on, mindful that the same material was used in the Senate House, you reflect on another major historical fact. Under Emperor Trajan, circa 113 CE, building projects expanded public bathhouses across the empire, providing both hygiene and social hubs for all classes. Those very baths might have doubled as clandestine meeting points for people like you and your patrons, blurring lines between public service and private pleasure. Historians still debate whether these communal washrooms were primarily health innovations or covert networks of social intrigue. You lean in to whisper your rate, an arrangement of denarii that feels oddly like haggling over sheep at the forum's livestock market. And the merchant blinks as if expecting a menu rather than a price list. He produces coins stamped with Trajan's visage and hands them over, then leans back to admire your coiffure sketches. Ah, the chignon of Livia, he jokes, recognizing the style you drew. You nod, recalling Livia's reputation for political machinations, as sharp as her jawline. Your next move is a delicate dance of perfumed cloths and gentle reassurance. Think of it as a live tutorial in ancient aromatherapy with a dash of interpersonal diplomacy. You guide him to recline on the low bench, draping a soft woolen shawl over his shoulders. You marvel that despite the empire's grandiosity, true comfort often came from simple things: warm water, gentle conversation, and the promise of discretion. Before the sun dips too low, you see the thermopolium's owner emerge, offering you a sample of his new fennel and honey preserve. Apparently, fennel was said to calm both stomach and soul. You accept graciously, picturing yourself as a Roman food critic, scribbling notes on parchment, delightful, with a hint of philosophical musing. As your client drifts off into post-gustatory reverie, yes, that's a word you just learned, you catch a glimpse of your reflection in the polished bronze mirror. You straighten your shoulders, thinking, maybe this life is a series of small performances, each one stitched together by fragrance, fabric, and fleeting moments of human connection. With your cheeks flushed from both work and rosemary-scented oil, you blow out the single oil lamp in your room, ready to transition to the next chapter of your day. The afternoon hush settles over the Sabura like a barely whispered lullaby, and you probably won't survive another cup of that tangy pasca without making a face. You emerge into the dim alley once more, where laundry hangs overhead like hopeful white flags, signaling a truce in the battle against Rome's never-ending dust. A stray breeze ripples each tunic and toga, creating a fleeting tapestry of motion, almost poetic if you ignore the smell of unwashed wool. Remember that vile etched curse tablet you buried behind the brazier? It still sits there, promising mild misfortune to anyone who stiffed you on payment. Sometimes you wonder if the gods reply with actual miracles or just shrug. On that note, here's a major historical fact. During the reign of Caligula, 3741 CE, public outrage over excessive taxation, even on minor trades, led to uprisings in Gaul and Germany. Romans were taxed for wine, oil, and, legend has it, even the right to tell political jokes in taverns. Scholars still debate whether these revolts were genuine cries for freedom or just hangry mobs upset over the price of amphorae. You navigate past a makeshift shrine to Fortuna Virilis, a goddess invoked to make the man brave, or, as some providers joked, make him at least financially brave enough to pay the right rate. Here's a weird cultural tidbit. Some courtesans carried small effigies of Fortuna Virilis carved from bone, slipping them into clients' robes like subtle bribes to the divine. If fortune favored them, clients tipped generously. If not, well, there was always the curse tablet route. Your midday chores complete, you head to the nearby public latrine, a surprisingly communal affair where rumors flow freer than water. You overhear talk of a new edict banning certain hairstyles deemed too effeminate for matrons. It seems the emperor's wife, upon seeing her reflection in a silver mirror, decreed that hair should not resemble the wings of a partridge. You chuckle to yourself, imagining the imperial hairdressers in an all-out war against feathered updos. 3 jokes for good measure. Romans used so much hair product they could have styled a pyramid. If you wanted a straight part, you needed more oil than a lamp factory, and the senators looked more regal than you, but you certainly charged less per hour. On your way back, you pass a group of street philosophers debating the merits of Epicureanism versus Stoicism, because nothing says, let's discuss moderation, like a bunch of people who clearly don't practice it. A stray dog slinks between them, presumably searching for the olives they're too polite to drop. Let's anchor this with another historical nugget. Under Hadrian, circa 130 CE, the legal status of prostitution shifted again, recognizing independent providers known as meretrices who could own property and hire staff. This change blurred lines between illicit and legitimate trade, ironically giving you both the freedom to expand your little enterprise and new headaches from bureaucratic paperwork. Historians still debate whether Hadrian's reforms genuinely empowered women or simply brought them under imperial oversight. Your leather pouch now feels lighter without the day's coin, so you stop at a small shrine of Panacea, goddess of universal remedy, and offer a few shards of bread, hoping she'll cure tomorrow's inevitable headache. You cup your hands in a silent invitation for divine relief, which may or may not arrive. As the sun dips toward the western horizon, you light another lamp in your chamber, the orange glow softening every rough edge. The scent of roasted figs drifts in from a neighbor's supper, reminding you that even in a city this vast, the simplest pleasures, taste, scent, warmth, tie you to home more tightly than any legal contract. You settle onto your low stool and retrieve your chalk sketches, adding a few final flourishes inspired by the day's gossip about that hair edict. You tuck them away, ready to offer glimpses of trending hairstyles to tomorrow's patrons. With a satisfied sigh, you think, in a city where emperors build walls and tear them down, my little sketches and whispered confidences hold their own quiet power. And so, as twilight wraps the Subura in its gentle arms, you prepare for the evening's rhythm, the soft murmur of returning clients, the glow of lanterns, and the unending dance of human desire. Your day continues, one candlelit moment at a time. You wake to the soft rattle of pottery on stone. Yes, the same chipped amphora you passed yesterday, now dangling from a thin rope like a sleepy sentinel. You probably won't survive another round of Pascha without improvising a cocktail, but let's leave that for later. Morning in Rome whispers secrets through sun-warmed air. The jangle of horse hooves, the faint cry of bakers hawking panis quadratus, and the distant murmur of the Senate preparing grand speeches that never reach your alley. Stepping into the courtyard, you notice the lavender sachet has been refreshed. Either a considerate neighbor or your own keen sense of self-preservation. You pause to inhale its calming scent and sneak a quick peek at the bronze mirror. Your reflection greets you with that same half-amused, half-exhausted expression you've perfected over countless dawns. Here's a major historical fact to occupy your thoughts as you smooth your tunic. Emperor Nero's Great Fire of 64 CE razed large swaths of the city, and in its aftermath, property laws shifted so dramatically that some proprietors of Lupinaria found themselves landlords overnight. The subsequent rebuilding plans even included designs for improved brothel districts, because where there's demand, sanitation follows. Historians still debate whether Nero envisioned a grand utopian city or simply coterminous zones of licentious indulgence. As you adjust the pins in your hair, thankful they're carved from a sturdy boar tusk, you remember an obscure yet delightful tidbit. Some courtesans wore gold-plated sandals embellished with tiny bells, so their approach sounded like a celestial procession. Patrons claimed it set the mood, though others suspected it was simply a marketing ploy to drown out city noises. Either way, you give a soft chuckle. Nothing says premium service like jingling footwear. Descending the stairs, you pass a garland of fresh olives hung over a neighbor's door, a token of hospitality in this cramped quarter. You pinch one and let its briny flavor hit your tongue, musing that a simple olive can be as potent as a philosopher's rhetoric. 3 light jokes. Olives have survived more regimes than most senators. They pair well with gossip, and they're the original snackable armor. Your first appointment awaits in the alcove near the water trough, where a bored soldier idles, helmet tilted back, glancing at you like he's deciding whether to salute or ask for directions. You lead him inside, offering a perfumed cloth to wipe sweat from his brow, mindful that Roman military campaigns often lasted longer than some marriages. You recall that under Emperor Hadrian, soldiers received bonuses for loyalty, some of which funded visits to Lupinaria. Scholars still debate whether these allowances encouraged morale or merely prolonged the empire's moral decline. You settle him on a low bench, the scent of rose and myrrh weaving through the cool air. As you work, you overhear distant barbers carving intricate scrollwork into combs, reminders that artistry thrives in unexpected corners. You lean in to share a soft quip about Senate scandals, and he grins, momentarily trading his spear for your steady counsel, finishing with a flourish, literally, a flourish of scented oil. You watch him depart with more spring in his step than he arrived. You tuck away your hairpins and pause by the doorway, noting how the sun's angle has shifted since dawn, painting the alley walls with elongated shadows. In these subtle changes, you find comfort. Every day may begin the same, but each carries a unique rhythm of light and life. With that, you extinguish the lamp's last flame, ready for the lull before the afternoon's crescendo of visitors. The courtyard's hush is broken only by the soft drip of the fountain, nature's metronome. Or maybe it's testing your patience. You probably won't outlast its steady rhythm, but at least it's a better soundtrack than an echoing Senate speech. You emerge into the midday glow, where laundry flutters overhead like tattered flags marking territory in this dense urban maze. Remember the gold-plated sandals? A pair sits abandoned by the trough, discarded by a patron more interested in hydration than fashion. You grin at the memory of their panicked search when the bells went silent. Classic. Today's lesson: invest in jingles that last. Here's today's major historical fact. Under Emperor Claudius, 41 to 54 CE, the edictum de Pr0stitutes required registered meretrices to submit receipts of all earnings to municipal officials. This brought ancient bookkeeping to a new level. If you forgot a line item, expect a frown from the tax collector. Historians still debate whether this registry protected workers or simply tightened the empire's grip on private affairs. Descending the alley, you pass a shrine to the Lars, household spirits adored by families and meretrices alike. A neighbor has left a bowl of honey there, a universal bribe to temper any divine mischief. Obscure tidbit. Some providers claimed the Lares guided their guests' footsteps directly to the door, ensuring prompt arrivals and full payment. If that's true, consider it the earliest form of divine referral marketing. You slip into your chamber, where a half-empty terracotta cup of mulsum, wine sweetened with honey, awaits on a low table. Perfect for a midday pick-me-up, just enough to toast your own resilience. 3 subtle jokes. This wine is smoother than a senator's apology, sweeter than flattery from the forum, and more honest than most political speeches. Your next visitor arrives, a young scribe clutching rolled parchments, eyes alight with curiosity. You usher him in, noting how his quill's feather brush still holds ink. As you offer him water, you recall that under Emperor Vespasian, 6979 CE, public latrine use was taxed by urine collection for tanning. Roman innovation at its quirkiest. Scholars still debate whether this urine tax funded public works or simply added insult to injury. As the scribe settles, you produce a small wax tablet and gently demonstrate hairstyle sketches. Now, an impromptu art lesson. He listens intently, occasionally nodding as though these curls and braids hold the mysteries of the cosmos. You share a whispered anecdote about a notorious senator who once wore a single curl out of place and was ridiculed in graffiti across the city. Finishing your demonstration, you pack away your tools, the afternoon light softening into gold. You step back into the alley, dust motes dancing like tiny lanterns in the glow. In this fleeting moment, you sense that even as Rome's empire stretches across continents, true power lies in small gestures, a well-timed smile, a scented oil, or a whisper of reassurance. Taking a final breath, you close your door, anticipating the evening's gentle crescendo. Another day in ancient Rome, another tapestry of human connection, woven beneath marble and mortar. You step into the soft glow of evening lanterns, and suddenly, the alley feels less like a shortcut and more like a warmly lit stage set for your next performance. Remember the laundry banners fluttering overhead. Tonight, they seem to applaud your entrance, casting dancing patterns of shadow across the worn cobblestones. You probably won't make it through this evening without at least one more lavender sachet tucked into your tunic. But hey, a little scent never hurt anybody. The scent of balsam lingers in your room, a faint echo of midday's golden wine, and you pause to inhale deeply, recalling that gentle sweetness before greeting your next guest. It's time to tune into the subtle symphony of nightly life, the distant murmur of the Appian Way's last travelers, the soft clink of coin in a merchant's purse, and the low babble of water in the fountain, as reliable as your morning alarm. Here's a major historical fact to savor between breaths. After the completion of the Aqua Claudia aqueduct in 52 CE, Rome's water supply doubled, sending clear, cool streams of life through fountains, baths, and private chambers like yours. Scholars still debate whether the expanded water network improved public health or simply fueled more extravagant parties, and by extension, boosted demand for late-night companionship. As you arrange cushions by the entrance, you notice the chipped Neptune mosaic you've come to regard as your silent sentinel, its trident gleaming in torchlight. He seems to wink, though that could be the flicker of flame. It's a comforting callback to the morning's routine, reminding you that even mighty gods have a sense of humor. An obscure cultural tidbit floats into your mind. Some courtesans used crushed snail shells mixed with water as a rudimentary exfoliant, gentle enough to leave skin smooth, but abrasive enough to scrub away the day's grime. Imagine the marketing pitch, a patience-building facial, and a chance to revisit the Subura's finest gossip. You tuck the memory away, a mental note for your beauty ritual later. Your first patron tonight is a traveling actor, fresh from the theater of Pompeii, still wearing stage makeup traces under his eyes. You beckon him inside, offering a violet-scented oil to remove the last vestiges of tragedy from his cheeks. 3 light jokes follow. His brushstrokes of emotion beat any fresco you've seen. His tragic flair rivals Nero's own dramatic exit, and his cloak smells as if it's been through more emotional scenes than a Senate debate. As you settle him onto the low bench, you notice a faint echo of earlier days. The same soldier's steady stride from Section Five has been replaced by the echo of wooden stage wheels creaking beyond your door. It's a subtle reminder that everyone carries their role off stage too. You lean in to share one scholarly confession. Historians still debate whether actors held higher or lower social standing than courtesans. Some sources praise their art, while others mock their moral character. Either way, there's an unspoken camaraderie in those shared whispers of society's outcasts. By the time the lanterns gutter low, you bid your guest farewell with a gentle touch to his shoulder, a personal benediction as much as a goodbye. The night outside feels a shade quieter. The street philosophers, long since dispersed, and the stray dog curled up by the fountain, perhaps dreaming of olives or honeyed figs. Extinguishing the lamp's flame, you gather your pouches and hairpins, feeling the comforting weight of everyday tools. You pause once more before the Neptune mosaic, offering a silent thanks for another evening woven into Rome's living tapestry. Softly, you murmur, "Until tomorrow, old friend," and step into the night's embrace. Night in the Subura unfolds like a velvet curtain, and you probably won't manage a full night's rest between appointments. But sleep's overrated anyway. You slip through the alley's half-darkness, drawing deeper on the lingering aroma of rosewater and lavender, those faithful companions of your waking hours. The distant glow of the public baths, the baths of Trajan, beckons, its steam drifting like ghostly banners above the stone entrance. You recall that during its heyday, 109 CE, the baths could accommodate up to 1,600 bathers at once, making it one of the empire's grandest social hubs. Scholars still debate whether these complexes were primarily about hygiene or elaborate public theaters for status and intrigue. An obscure tidbit drifts across your thoughts. Rumor has it that some patrons installed tiny mirrors under their benches to discreetly observe their neighbors entering and exiting a sort of aquatic people, watching that you'd classify as proto-reality TV. You smile, thinking how easily human curiosity transcends millennia. You pass by the chamber where the birdsong of nightingales used to coax in clients. Tonight, only the occasional hoot of an owl punctuates the quiet. You slip into the softly lit corridor of the nearest lupanar, its plaster walls stained by centuries of candle smoke, and you pause to run your fingers over the carved lintel, a modest relief of Venus rising from waves, a discreet reminder of the venue's ancient purpose. Inside, the air is cool and hushed. You guide your late-night visitor, a weary scholar clutching scrolls on Stoic philosophy, to a cushioned alcove. You offer him a swig of rose-infused water, muttering that at least one of you is living the philosophy of ataraxia tonight. 3 subtle jokes. The philosopher's beard is dustier than the scrolls he cherishes. His quest for wisdom matches your search for a decent night's tip, and his furrowed brow suggests he'd argue with a statue if given half the chance. As you freshen his hairline and whisper reassurances, you reflect on another major historical fact. In 212 CE, the Constitutio Antoniniana granted Roman citizenship to all free inhabitants of the empire, dramatically expanding the potential clientele for both baths and lupanaria. Historians still debate whether this edict strengthened unity or overwhelmed Rome's social mechanisms. Your hand hovers over a small bone-carved amulet of Fortuna, slipped discreetly into his robe as a token of goodwill, an echo of earlier chapters when you entrusted clients with divine favors for safe returns. You catch his eye in a polished bronze mirror, and he offers a grateful nod, as if this fleeting encounter has reset his spirit. Stepping back into the courtyard, the night air cools your warmed skin. The mosaic of Neptune glints faintly in torchlight, bidding you farewell, or perhaps encouraging you to rest before dawn. You shake your head with a wry smile. There's no rest for those who shape the nights. Pausing under the fluttering laundry, you whisper your scholarly admission. Historians still debate whether the nighttime economy of Rome rivaled its daytime bustle or simply served as a quieter echo. You tuck that thought away, tucking yourself into a quiet corner for a brief respite, embracing the hush before the next day's first light. You awaken before dawn, stirred by the first twitter of birds over the fountain. You probably won't survive another day without that lavender sachet under your pillow. But here we are. The courtyard glimmers in pre-sunlight hush. The chipped Neptune mosaic, a silent sentinel once more, its trident tip catching the faintest orange glow. You slip into your patched tunic and step outside, inhaling the cool air as though it were a rare perfume. Your first errand, a quick run to the communal fountain to fetch fresh water, ancient plumbing, courtesy of the Aqua Marcia Aqueduct, 145 BCE, which delivered some of Rome's purest water for over 5 centuries. Scholars still debate whether its construction marked a triumph of engineering or an exercise in bureaucratic overreach. Water politics never change. Balancing 2 clay jars, you navigate the alley's laundry banners, their fabrics whispering overhead like sleepy heralds. An obscure tidbit flits through your mind. Some courtesans flavored their clients' baths with crushed rose petals and mint, claiming it soothed both body and rumor mill. You can't help but smirk. Marketing pivot or genuine aromatherapist? You decide to test it on yourself after dawn's next client. 3 subtle jokes to fuel your morning. Those jars are heavier than a senator's empty promises. Your sandals squeak like a disgruntled donkey on cobblestones, and that fountain's drip has become your personal metronome. With water sloshing, you pause by a small shrine to Karna, goddess of hinges and thresholds, because nothing says smooth entry like divine carpentry. You offer a few oat crumbs, just in case she fancies a midnight snack. Back in your chamber, you refill your oil lamp, the wick flickering to life, like the Republic's ever-burning ambition. You swirl rose-infused oil into a bowl, recalling that under Augustus's reign, perfumed oils became so prized that Cleopatra herself reportedly gifted Marcus Antony a collection of scents worth millions of sesterces. Historians still debate whether she was a savvy diplomat or simply the world's first beauty influencer. You dab oil behind your ears and along your collarbone, the rosy warmth a pleasant contrast to the morning chill. You glance at your chalk sketches, today's hairstyle callback, the chignon of Livia, now slightly refined with tiny braids looping like laurel wreaths. It's a gentle reminder that power often lies not in grand gestures, but in the smallest twists of hair. Stepping outside again, you carry 1 jar of water and 1 jar of anticipation. Anticipation for the day's first client, coffee-free but rich in human unpredictability. As the sun breaches the horizon, Painting alley walls gold, you think. In Rome, even the dawn performs for an audience. Mid-morning settles in like a well-worn toga, and you probably won't outlast the sun's climb without a quick break to savor last night's rose petal bath. Self-care before contracts, if you will. Emerging from your chamber, you find the courtyard alive with merchants unpacking amphorae of honey, olives, and garum, a licorice-sweet fish sauce that would make modern chefs weep. You stroll past the open doorway of the Forum, where senators gather under marble arches to debate grain prices, an affair as spicy as any heated salon gossip. Here's a major historical fact. The Senatus Consultum de Pisone, circa 71 BCE, was one of the earliest surviving Senate decrees, illustrating that political drama has long been Rome's favorite opera. Historians still debate whether this decree genuinely curbed corruption or merely codified it with grandiloquent language, an obscure cultural nibble. Surfaces. Lovers on tight budgets sometimes slipped wooden writing tablets, tabellae serrati, into their clients' tunics, each inscribed with whispered promises and coded hearts. Think of it as the empire's first love note app, complete with wax, password, 3 light-hearted quips to brighten the forum's stone severity. The senator's speeches are longer than a toga's trailing hem. Their rhetorical flourishes rival a stylus etched scroll, and their wigs, oh, their wigs, look like they've been styled by an overzealous olive press. You weave back to your alcove, where a young baker's boy offers you a still warm libum cake as payment for a previous favor. Because a bit of barter keeps the neighborhood gears greased, you bite in, tasting honey and cheese mingling like old friends, and muse that even in commerce, sweetness softens negotiation. Inside your chamber, you resume preparations for the afternoon's clientele. Oil lamps trimmed, lavender sachet refreshed, chalk sketches at the ready. You pause to trace the faint outline of Venus on the doorframe, a callback to the luminar's entrance relief, reminding you that the divine and the delightful often share the same doorway. As you settle by the fountain's edge, you offer a moment of scholarly humility. Historians still debate whether informal networks of courtesans wielded more influence than some provincial governors. Power sometimes whispers rather than shouts. You tuck that thought away, ready to trade discreet confidences and rosewater whispers in equal measure. Bracing yourself, you stand and smooth your tunic, the Colosseum's distant roar echoing like a promise of spectacle to come. With a measured breath and a practiced smile, you step into the day's next act, knowing full well that even in ancient Rome, the finest stories unfold in quiet alleys just beyond the grand facades. Dusk's rosy fingers trace the alley walls as you step into the cooling air. You probably won't survive a single night without that lavender sachet's soft insistence, but at least the scent lingers like a faithful companion. The chips in the Neptune mosaic catch the lantern glow, reminding you that even the gods enjoy a touch of evening drama. You pause to adjust your tunic, feeling the faint weight of coins in your leather pouch, a tangible echo of the day's quiet triumphs. A gentle breeze carries the mingled aromas of fresh bread from the bakery next door and the smoky promise of tonight's braziers. Inhale deeply. That's the smell of livelihood, of honest labor, and perfumed negotiation, all wrapped into one. You step past a row of pottery jars, some emptied of water, others brimming with more rose water, and pause at a small shrine to Cupid, where a neighbor has pinned a folded parchment depicting two entwined doves. Obscure tidbit: some providers believed leaving miniature dove figurines at these shrines ensured their clients left as enamored as the birds themselves. Ancient matchmaking via avian symbolism. Here's your major historical fact for the evening. During the early empire, Emperor Vespasian's fiscal reforms, circa 75 CE, introduced a flat tax on all brothel revenues, standardizing rates across Rome's districts. This bold move stabilized municipal budgets, but also ignited murmurs of moral compromise. Scholars still debate whether these taxes inadvertently legitimized the profession or simply burdened those least able to pay. You round the corner into your chamber, where a faint echo of laughter from the theater still lingers beneath the plaster ceilings, stagecraft bleeding into everyday life. 3 subtle jokes tumble to mind. Your lavender sachet outlasts most senators' promises. Your sandals have tread more gossip than the forum's busiest steps. And if walls could talk, yours would rival any playwright's latest tragedy. Your first client tonight is a merchant's wife, clad in modest stola, but with eyes that glitter beneath the oil lamp's glow. You offer her a cushion and a small ceramic cup of mulsum flavored with crushed mint. Gentle hospitality before delicate conversation. As she sips, you recall another scholarly wrinkle. Historians still debate whether such indulgences in private chambers fueled Rome's legendary decadence, or simply offered respite from its relentless pace. You guide her through a whispered exchange of confidences, small family dramas, the latest gossip of the Vestal virgins, and perhaps the rumor that an overzealous senator had recently tripped on his own toga at the Senate House, public spectacle spilling beyond marble steps. She laughs, and the sound is sweeter than the honey in her cup. A stray breeze lifts the hanging laundry overhead, and you mention the tale of crushed snail shell exfoliant from Section 7. She nods, intrigued, and jots down mental notes for her own beauty regimen. You share a soft aside about the birdsong marketing trick. Imagine sweet melodies coaxing even the busiest patrician to pause. When the lantern flame dips low, you glimpse her reflection in the polished bronze mirror. You offer a final rose-scented oil dab behind her ears, an earnest benediction, and she departs, her silence now eased into gentle contentment. You close the door, feeling that familiar hum of satisfaction. Your craft wields small but profound power. With the night deepening, you extinguish the lamp and, for a moment, consider a brief rest. But the fountain's steady drip and the alley's soft chorus of distant voices remind you that rest is optional in Rome, especially for those who craft the night. Midnight blooms in velvet shades as you slip into the alley's hush. You probably won't manage a full night's sleep between visits, but this is the hour when subtle magic weaves itself into the stones. The laundry above whispers like old friends, sharing secrets, and the Neptune mosaic stands vigil in the flickering torchlight, its trident glinting with archaic approval. Your first task is to refill the oil lamp in your chamber before greeting tonight's visitors. The lamp's flame flutters to life, casting gentle shadows that dance across chalk sketches pinned to the wall. Hairstyles of Livia, auburn waves of a noblewoman, and an experimental braid looped like a celestial orbit. An obscure yet charming note. In some circles, moonlight-inspired braids were rumored to grant serenity, though scholars still debate whether this was genuine fashion or mere moonlit myth-making. Here's your historic anchor. Around 200 CE, Emperor Septimius Severus commissioned public records listing registered courtesans by name and region, an unprecedented transparency that both empowered providers and subjected them to civic scrutiny. Historians still debate whether this registry recognized their social contributions or simply made them easier to tax. The courtyard is quiet, except for the low murmur of a street philosopher debating the Stoics nearby, his voice a soft counterpoint to the distant roar of the Colosseum's night fires. You pause by the small shrine to Fortuna Virilis, slipping a tiny, bone-carved charm into the offering bowl as a quiet prayer for smooth negotiations and generous tips. 3 light jokes spring to mind. This philosopher sounds as if he's arguing with himself on echo. Your charm collection is fancier than some senator's signet rings, and if tips were written in stone, you'd have your own column in the forum. A pair of footsteps approaches, your final guests of the night, a young couple drawn from the public baths. They cling together like ivy, bashful, yet eager. You usher them in, offering violet-scented oil to refresh post-bath locks and a braided cushion nest for their ease. As you work, you murmur a gentle question about their homeland, always a soft entry point, weaving personal tales into the evening's tapestry. She reveals she hails from a distant provincial town near the Danube, where winter bites harder than a legionnaire's whip. He laughs and confesses that he missed her warmth so terribly that he nearly bribed the bathhouse attendant to extend closing time. You offer a knowing smile. Love, it seems, is the same in every corner of the empire. While you arrange the cushions, you look out the small window at the moon's pale face, recalling your morning's rush to the fountain. Water, after all, flows through every chapter of your life, from dawn's first draw to midnight's final lantern. You share a soft, scholarly aside. Historians still debate whether provincial traditions enriched Rome's urban tapestry or merely created exotic curiosities for the capital's elite. As the couple settles, you fade into the background, satisfied to witness their gentle intimacy unfold against the hush of the courtyard. Outside, a stray dog curls beneath the fountain, and somewhere a nightingale trills its lone verse, companions for a night's final act. When their whispered farewells drift into the silence, you extinguish the lamp and stand by the Neptune mosaic one last time, tracing its cool, worn edge with your fingertips. You murmur, "Rest well, old friend," and step into the deep night, carrying the faint echo of human stories that pulse beneath Rome's eternal stones. Dawn barely tugs at the sky when you slip from your chamber, and you probably won't survive another sunrise without that lavender sachet pressed to your chest. But here you are, drawn to the courtyard's hush like a moth to flame. The chipped Neptune mosaic gleams faintly in pre-light, his trident tip catching the first hint of pink horizon. You pause to straighten your tunic, feeling the reassuring weight of your leather pouch and the promise of a new day's human curiosities. Your first chore is a swift trip to the nearby baker's stall for fresh panis quadratus, the square loaves that keep subura dwellers from revolting over stale crumbs. Here's a major historical fact. During the grain shortages of 33 BCE, Augustus instituted the Cura Annoni, the grain dole that fed citizens and shaped Rome's social contract. Scholars still debate whether this program truly alleviated hunger or merely bought political loyalty at a hidden cost. You greet the baker with a cheeky grin. 3 light jokes volley from your lips. His loaves are firmer than a senator's resolve, warmer than a bathhouse conversation, and twice as satisfying as any scandalous rumor. He laughs, tossing you a free roll for old times' sake, and you tuck it away for a mid-morning nibble. As you return, the alley's laundry banners flicker overhead like silent witnesses. An obscure cultural tidbit flutters through your mind. Some courtesans clipped tiny ribbons of dyed wool onto their garments, each color signaling a coded greeting to returning clients. A flash of crimson meant urgent business, while pale blue whispered long-term arrangement. You run your fingers over a stray ribbon left dangling from yesterday's guests and smile at this silent language of cloth. Back in your chamber, you refill the oil lamp and notice a faint stain on the wall, a remnant of last night's rosewater. A callback to Section 12, you think. Fragrance truly lingers in every corner of your life. You top your hair offering bowl with crushed mint and violet petals, then pause to reflect on one scholarly uncertainty. Historians still debate whether personal grooming rituals in private chambers influenced public fashion trends or simply remained hidden luxuries. Your first client appears, a young patrician, eyes darting behind a carved ivory mask, an ironic attempt at anonymity in a profession all too public. You guide him inside, offering a seat on soft cushions and a sip of honeyed water. As you work, you share a gentle quip. Neither mask nor marble can hide your curiosity. He chuckles, easing into conversation about the latest Senate gossip, proving that secrets flow as freely here as in the forum. When he departs, coins in hand and conscience eased, you step back into the alley's dawning glow. You inhale deeply, letting the mingled scents of bread, lavender, and possibility fill your lungs. With a contented sigh, you prepare for the day's unfolding tapestry, knowing that each sunrise in Rome writes its own story on ancient stones. Mid-morning unfolds like a well-pressed toga, and you probably won't survive the sun's climb without another splash of lavender behind your ears. But at least the aroma keeps you upright. You emerge into the courtyard's gentle bustle. A vendor rolls honey-glazed pastries, a barber sharpens razors for midday patrons, and the distant clatter of a carpenter's chisel echoes like a muted drum. You duck beneath laundry banners and catch sight of the chipped Neptune mosaic. It's become your silent co-conspirator in this daily performance. An obscure tidbit drifts through your thoughts. Some courtesans used ground rose hips in their bathwater to tint their skin a gentle coral hue, believing it mimicked the rosy glow of youth. You note the idea for later experimentation, right after you secure your next guest's satisfaction. Here's your major historical fact. In 212 CE, Caracalla's Constitutio Antoniniana extended Roman citizenship empire-wide, creating new social dynamics and expanding clientele beyond the city's original residents. Scholars still debate whether this broad enfranchisement strengthened imperial bonds or simply diluted Rome's exclusive identity. On your way to greet a visiting artisan, a shipwright from Ostia, you pause at the small shrine to Lares, household spirits, whose tiny painted figures stand guard over doorways. You leave a few crushed olives as an offering, recalling the first olive courtesan collaboration from Section 5, and murmur a quick prayer for the day's goodwill. Entering your chamber, you find the shipwright examining your hairstyle sketches with keen interest. His sunburnt hands sketch a rough outline of a galley's prow, on a spare wax tablet, an amusing callback to your own artistry. You guide him to the cushions, offering a draught of mulsum spiced with coriander. 3 subtle jokes follow. His sketches are more sweeping than a senator's rhetoric. His hands rougher than last night's snail shell exfoliant, and his ship designs promise more adventure than the emperor's procession. As you apply violet-scented oil, you share a quietly scholarly note. Historians still debate whether Ostian craftsmen held greater prestige than some urban artisans or merely thrived in peripheral anonymity. He nods as though pondering history's quirks, then relaxes under your practiced care. When he departs, whistling softly to the rhythm of distant waves on the Tiber, you step into the courtyard's warm glow. The tiled fountain murmurs encouragement. The laundry banners flutter in gentle applause, and Neptune's mosaic grins back at you. You smooth your tunic, thinking, in Rome's grand theater, even minor players leave lasting impressions. With that, you close your chamber door, ready for whatever the afternoon may bring. The courtyard dawns with a gentle hush, morning mist curling around the fountain like a whispered secret, and you probably won't survive the day's first light without that lavender tucked into your tunic. But habit is its own comfort. You pause by the chipped Neptune mosaic, greeting your marble-eyed companion as if he were an old friend sharing dawn's vigil. Today's major historical fact drifts through your mind as you refill your oil lamp. Under Emperor Domitian, 81 to 96 CE, a new law mandated that certain public entertainments, including performances in Lupanaria, be supervised by municipal officials, ostensibly to curb excess, but perhaps simply to monitor the wrong sort of laughter. Scholars still debate whether this oversight improved public morality or simply bureaucratized pleasure. You step into the alley's soft glow, where laundry banners ripple overhead like lullabies caught on the breeze. An obscure cultural tidbit comes to you. Some courtesans flavored their hair pomades with crushed violets, an aromatic indulgence said to evoke the gardens of the imperial villas. You pause, inhaling faint floral notes, and make a mental note to test the violet braid next week. 3 light jokes accompany your thoughts. This pomade smells more regal than a senator's toga trim. It holds hair firmer than any political promise, and it's the only thing around here that outlasts my lavender sachets. Your first client is a traveling stonemason, calloused hands etched like reliefs on his tools. You guide him into the cool chamber, offering mint-infused water and a seat on plush cushions. As you work, he recounts tales of carving temple columns in Gaul, his voice a low melody of craft and dust. You share a gentle callback to Section 5's olive offerings. I've found that a simple olive can speak as loudly as marble. An intimate moment unfolds as you braid his damp hair, each twist a quiet testament to human connection. You reflect on another scholarly uncertainty. Historians still debate whether provincial artisans like him held more honor in their workshops than some patricians did in their palaces. He smiles, a soft acknowledgement that skill transcends status. With his satisfaction sealed by a final spritz of rosewater, he departs into the waking city, leaving behind an empty amphora and the faint echo of gratitude. You stand in the doorway, touching the worn threshold where countless stories have begun and ended. In this gentle pause, you inhale the mingled scents of wood smoke, lavender, and possibilities, tiny threads woven into Rome's vast tapestry. You smooth your tunic and step back into the alley, ready to greet whatever quiet dramas the day unfolds next. Dusk's first violet tendrils stretch across the Sabura as you slip from your chamber. You probably won't survive another evening without that lavender sachet's reassuring presence. But a little aroma never hurt. The chipped Neptune mosaic greets you in torchlight, its trident seeming to sparkle with conspiratorial glee. You pause to adjust your tunic, feeling the familiar weight of coins in your leather pouch and the promise of new stories waiting just beyond the worn doorway. Tonight's major historical fact. Under Emperor Antoninus Pius, 138-161 CE, legal reforms granted meretrices limited property rights, allowing some to own their chambers outright rather than rent from absentee landlords. Scholars still debate whether this change genuinely empowered providers or simply tied them more tightly to the tax rolls. An obscure, whisper-soft tidbit. A few forward-thinking courtesans experimented with scented hair oils infused with saffron, an exotic spice imported from the East, believing its golden hue and heady aroma would lend them the air of distant nobility. You inhale the faint memory of saffron, like sunlit silk on skin, and tuck the idea away for your next recipe. 3 light jokes drift through your mind as you step into the courtyard. Saffron-infused hair oils cost more than a senator's dinner party. Lavender sachets are the only things more dependable than Rome's aqueducts. And your sandals have traveled farther than the grain ships docking at Ostia. You guide tonight's visitor, an overworked seamstress from across the Tiber, into your cool room, offering her a cup of mulsum spiced with crushed mint. She sighs with relief, as if that single sip has dissolved every stubborn stitch in her memory. You settle her on cushions, recalling how, in Section 9, you fetched water from the Aqua Marcia. Tonight, water whispers tales gathered from distant hills. As you gently smooth stray threads from her hair, you share a soft, scholarly confession. Historians still debate whether the property reforms under Antoninus truly improved working conditions or simply created new legal complexities for those without literate advocates. She nods, running fingertips over your hairstyle sketches pinned to the wall, braided loops inspired by imperial gardens, now enhanced with saffron's glow. A gentle silence falls as you finish, the only sound the fountain's steady murmur beyond the doorway. You release her hand quietly, offering a final spritz of violet-scented water behind her ears. She rises, coins in hand, and offers you a shy smile that speaks volumes of gratitude. Stepping back into the alley, you inhale the mingled scents of honeyed wine, rosewater, and possibility, an olfactory tapestry woven through every encounter. The laundry banners overhead sway gently in the night breeze, like applause for another evening's work. You blink at the Neptune mosaic one last time and murmur, "Sleep well, old friend," before slipping into the Sabura's embrace. Pre-dawn mist coils around the fountain like a soft whisper as you emerge from your chamber. You probably won't begin the day without that lavender sachet pressed against your senses, but it's a small price for solace. The chipped Neptune mosaic glints faintly, its marble grin as comforting as a silent confidant. You straighten your tunic and cradle your leather pouch, mind already racing with the day's first tasks. Here's today's major historical fact. In 64 CE, Nero's grand rebuilding plan after the Great Fire included regulations that required Lupanaria be built outside the city center, ostensibly to protect public morals. Scholars still debate whether this relocation truly curbed indulgence or merely shifted it to less monitored streets. An obscure cultural note surfaces. Some courtesans kept tiny vials of musky civet in their pouches, an acquired scent said to mimic wild earthiness, believed to awaken latent passions. You imagine the smell of civet mingling with rosewater and lavender, a heady cocktail of terrestrial and floral notes. You tuck the notion away, intrigued by its ancient allure. 3 subtle jokes meander through your morning thoughts. This civet notion smells wilder than a gladiator's farewell. Lavender sachets are the only thing that outlast dinner conversations, and your sandals squawk like a disgruntled owl on damp cobbles. Your first errand is to fetch fresh bread from the bakery, those square loaves of panis quadratus that keep neighborhood tempers from flaring. You exchange playful jests with the baker. His loaves are firmer than a stoic's resolve, and twice as satisfying. He tosses you an extra roll, and you tuck it away for a later nibble. The simple bartering of Subura life. Back in your chamber, you refill the lamp and set rose-infused oil beside your hairpin collection, now including saffron and civet. Alongside lavender and violet, you trace your finger over a new chalk sketch, a braid looped like the Milky Way, inspired by whispers of Eastern Star lore. You pause, recalling that scholars still debate whether Roman astrologers shaped hair trends or merely rode their cosmic coattails. As the sun's first rays gild the alley, you collect water from the fountain, ancient Aqua Claudia at work, and pause at the small shrine to Lares, leaving a few olive fragments in thanks. You recall Section 13's ribbon color code and tie a thin crimson wool strip to your pouch. Urgent business indeed. With everything in place, you step into the dawn's glow, sandals tapping cobbles in a familiar rhythm. You inhale deeply, savoring the mingled scents of bread, oil, and morning promise. In Rome's grand mosaic, each dawn is a fresh tessera, unique in hue, texture, and shape, and you stand ready to craft its next quiet story. The alley's dawn glow filters through laundry banners like stained glass whispers, and you probably won't survive this morning without that lavender sachet tucked against your heart. But it's become as vital as your leather pouch. Neptune's chipped mosaic catches the light, his trident gleaming with quiet approval. As you refill your oil lamp, its wick flickering to life like a promise. Your first task is to refill water jars at the fountain, drawing cool streams courtesy of the Anio Novus Aqueduct, 52 CE. One of Rome's grandest engineering feats. Scholars still debate whether its tunnels were carved for practical need or imperial prestige. Balancing the jars, you recall an obscure tidbit. Some courtesans infused their drawing water with crushed lilac petals to refresh guests, believing the floral undertone sharpened conversation. You wonder if lilacs might sharpen your own wit as you inhale their faint ghost. 3 gentle jokes buoy your steps. These jars feel heavier than a senator's empty promises. The fountain's drip is your personal metronome, and your sandals squeak louder than a disgruntled orator in the forum. Back in your chamber, you smooth your tunic and arrange velvet cushions for the day's first client, recalling Section 14's tale of dyed wool ribbons. Today, you knot a pale blue strand at your belt for long-term arrangement. As the ribbon flutters, you think about another major historical fact. Under Emperor Claudius, 41 to 54 CE, municipal records began listing registered meretrices by neighborhood, creating a semi-public directory. Historians still debate whether this transparency empowered workers or simply subjected them to greater surveillance. Your first visitor emerges, a ship's navigator, sea salt in his hair, eyes bright with distant horizons. You guide him inside, offering a draught of honeyed wine spiced with coriander. 3 subtle jokes to ease formality. His tales beat any poet's epics. His sea-worn cloak smells richer than garum, and his compass seems steadier than Rome's fickle politics. As you unravel his tangled locks, you share a callback to Section 10's fish cake aromas. Even the sea can't compete with this room's perfume. He laughs, closing his eyes as violet-scented oil soothes his weathered scalp. You slip a small bone-carved charm of fortuna into his palm, another discreet benediction for safe voyages. When he departs, coins in hand and a brighter gait, you linger by the fountain. The morning sun warms your back, and you think, in Rome, every drop of water tells a story, every ribbon signals a promise, and every mosaic watches our daily dramas unfold. You tuck away your jars and prepare for the next gentle chapter. Mid-morning's gentle hum greets you as you step into the courtyard. You probably won't outlast the sun's climb without another lavender sachet behind your ear. But its scent bolsters your spirit. The laundry banners ripple overhead, their pale fabrics fluttering like silent heralds of countless private tales. Neptune's mosaic gleams in mosaic shards of gold light, urging you onward. Your first chore is to tend to the chamber's lavender sachets, replacing one with fresh blooms. As you work, you recall a whimsical cultural tidbit. Some courtesans wove tiny beeswax strands into their sachets so that, when warmed by body heat, they released subtle, honeyed notes, an olfactory wink to patrons. You tuck a pinch of honey-scented wax into the new sachet, imagining its sweet surprise. 3 light quips accompany your task. These sachets last longer than a senator's goodwill. Beeswax scents are stickier than political alliances, and my sandals have outlived 2 emperors. A sudden memory brings your scholarly humility forward. Historians still debate whether such scented innovations were widespread beauty secrets or mere boutique curiosities for the wealthiest clientele. You refill your oil lamp once more, its glow a steady heartbeat in your chamber, and review today's hairstyle sketches, tracing the braid loop from Section 9 alongside a new style, inspired by lotus petals you glimpsed in a temple mosaic. As you study it, you remember a major historical fact. During Hadrian's reign, 117 to 138 CE, artisan guilds expanded to include hairdressers and perfumers, granting them formal associations and regulated fees. Scholars still debate whether guild oversight improved quality or simply inflated prices. Your next visitor arrives, a provincial scribe clutching accounted ledgers. Dusty from travel, you greet him with a soft smile and offer mint-infused balsam. 3 subtle jokes, ready to ease the ledger's gravity. His quills are sharper than any gladiator's blade. His wax tablets hold more secrets than the Senate, and his robes look as crisp as his balance sheets. As you coax tension from his scalp, you share the beeswax sachet tale. He nods at the ingenuity of small wonders. You slip a carved amethyst hairpin into his robes as a token of goodwill, a callback to Section 7's Nightingale melodies, promising that small gifts often echo longer than grand gestures. When he leaves, his posture lighter, ledgers in hand, you close the door and pause by the fountain. Morning's warmth wraps you as you inhale the mingled scents of lavender, mint, and beeswax, a sensory mosaic richer than any marble frieze. You smooth your tunic and stride into the sunlit alley, ready for the day's next quiet performance. You slip into the gentle bustle of late morning, the alley warmed by the sun's early rays. And you probably won't survive another noon without that lavender sachet tucked at your waist. But its steady aroma feels like an old friend's hand on your shoulder. The chipped Neptune mosaic glints in shifting light, its watery gaze following your every step as you refill water jars from the fountain's cool torrent. Your first move is a stop at the small shrine of Bonadea, goddess of fertility and women's mysteries, where you leave a single violet petal. Small tribute, big hope. Here's your major historical fact. In 161 CE, Marcus Aurelius expanded the legal protections of meretrices, allowing them to testify in court, a surprising nod to their civic importance. Scholars still debate whether this measure genuinely elevated their status or simply placated influential brothel owners. An obscure cultural tidbit drifts through your mind. Some providers practiced echo calling, carving tiny conch shell horns into their rooms, so whispered invitations would float through the stone corridors like furtive birdsong. You pause, picturing a murmured summons echoing down dark alleys, and tuck the idea away for later theatrics. 3 light jokes buoy your mood as you carry jars back to your chamber. These jars are heavier than a senator's emptied promises. The fountain's drip is your personal metronome, and your sandals have clocked more miles than Rome's official road inspectors. Back in your room, you arrange pastel cushions and trim your lamp's wick, recalling Section 10's fish cake aromas mingling in the forum. Today's fragrance is pure rose and mint, a far gentler overture. You smooth your tunic and trace a new hairstyle sketch, a braided crown inspired by Bonadea's wreath, wondering if it will catch on among your clientele. As the first client appears, a cloaked temple acolyte bearing incense sticks, you guide her inside, offering honeyed water to soothe parched throats. 3 quips follow. Her incense smells sweeter than any gossip. Her robes rustle more softly than a senator's last excuse, and her hidden face is more intriguing than any scroll I've read. While you unbind her hair, you murmur an uncertain scholarly aside. Historians still debate whether temple acolytes secretly visited Lupanaria as part of ritual purification, or if such tales were mere scandalous gossip. She tilts her head, eyes bright behind the cowl, and offers a quiet smile of gratitude as you braid rose petals into her locks. When she departs, incense in hand and a lighter heart, you pause by the mosaic, murmuring, "Until next time, old friend," and step back into the sunlit alley, ready for the day's unfolding tapestry of human stories. Twilight drapes the Subura in dusky rose, and you probably won't make it through this evening's symphony of scents without that lavender sachet's steady counsel, but its gentle presence steadies you. Neptune's chipped mosaic stands sentinel in torchlight, its trident catching flickers of flame like a knowing wink as you light the oil lamp in your chamber. Your first chore is to refresh the lavender sachets and replace one with a blend of violet and crushed lilac. Recall Section 18's lilac water trick, and you inhale their mingled perfume as though breathing in possibility itself. Here's your major historical fact. In 284 CE, Diocletian's reforms imposed stricter regulations on brothel owners, requiring annual licenses and performance standards, a move some saw as moral rigor, others as imperial micromanagement. Scholars still debate whether Diocletian aimed to uplift social decency or simply increase tax revenues. An obscure cultural tidbit emerges. Late-night providers sometimes arranged small mirrors above clients' benches, reflecting torchlight onto painted carpentry scenes, so the room looked like a miniature theatrical set. Ancient ambience at its finest. You can't resist a smirk at the thought of carpentry dramas playing out overhead. 3 subtle jokes dance through your mind as you prepare the scene. These mirrors show more drama than the Senate floor. Your lavender sachets outlast political tenures, and your sandals have danced through more stories than any bard's lyre. The soft knock announces a pair of tent-maker spouses. Shan't trust just men, but a husband and wife duo tonight. You usher them in, offering mint-infused mulsum and cushions, tinted with crushed rose hips, a nod to Section 14's coral bath trend. As you work, they share laughs about mixing tent patching with marital squabbles. Proof that even woven fabrics can't prevent friction. You lean in to whisper one scholarly uncertainty. Historians still debate whether married couples' visits to Lupanaria were common social outings or scandal-ridden exceptions. They grin at each other, exchanging a playful nudge as you braid their hair together into a single intertwined style, symbol of unity and perhaps subtle rebellion. When they depart hand in hand, their footsteps light against the cobblestones. You stand by the fountain's edge, inhaling the soft night air scented with rose, mint, and lavender. A final olfactory tapestry for the day. You blow out the lamp's flame, whisper, "Rest well, old friends," and step into the Sabura's velvet night, ready to weave tomorrow's gentle tale. You slip from your chamber into the late-night hush, and you probably won't survive the dark moon's chill without that lavender sachet pressed to your pulse. But habit is a gentle anchor. The chipped Neptune mosaic glints under torchlight, its trident tip catching each wavering flame, as though winking in encouragement. You pause to dust embers of yesterday's rose water from the cushions and refill your oil lamp, its wick flickering to life like a soft exclamation. Your first ritual, replenishing the lavender sachets, this time blending in crushed violet petals and a whisper of civet, recall Section 17's exotic scent experiment to weave a more layered fragrance. You inhale the mingled aromas, letting them settle like a familiar lullaby. Here's your major historical fact for the night. In 212 CE, Caracalla's Constitutio Antoniniana extended citizenship empire-wide, instantly expanding your potential clientele, from provincial artisans to distant merchants. Historians still debate whether this edict fostered unity or simply diluted Rome's elite aura. An obscure tidbit drifts through your mind. Some late-night providers borrowed the oil lamp's gentle glow and offset it with polished bronze mirrors set at angles, creating an infinite dance of light that made small chambers feel as vast as palaces. You imagine those flickering reflections, casting playful shadows across your own walls. 3 sly jokes buoy your preparation. These mirrors reflect more drama than the Senate's gossip. Lavender sachets outlast half the empire's governors, and your sandals have tapped through more light shows than any official pageant. A soft rat-tat on the door heralds your first nocturnal guests. a pair of traveling mosaicists, their tunics trimmed with tiny tile patterns. You usher them inside, offering peppermint-spiked mulsum and a cushion dyed the color of lapis lazuli, an homage to their craft. As you work, they share stories of piecing together designs in distant provinces, each tessera a testament to human patience. You lean in to offer a scholarly humility. Historians still debate whether mosaic art influenced popular aesthetics in Rome's urban heart or remained largely provincial. One artist grins, noting that in mosaic, as in life, beauty emerges through patient assembly of small fragments. By the time they depart, smiles in place of tools, you sweep the chamber's floor. The lamp's glow softened by the gentle scent of lavender and violet. Outside, the alley is a silent stage, awaiting tomorrow's first scene. You murmur, "Rest well, old friends," to Neptune's mosaic, and slip into the night's soft embrace. Pre-dawn stillness drapes the sabura like a velvet curtain, and you probably won't greet daylight without that lavender sachet's calm insistence, but its gentle weight under your chin is as comforting as an old friend's whisper. Neptune's chipped mosaic gleams faintly in the first gray light, his trident resting as patiently as the city before dawn's bustle. You rise, straighten your tunic, and cradle your leather pouch as the world holds its breath. Your first errand, fetch fresh water from the fountain, its steady flow courtesy of the Aqua Virgo Aqueduct, 19 BCE, famed for delivering especially clear springs, once worshipped by Vesta's priestesses. Scholars still debate whether its builders prized purity or political prestige. Balancing two jars, you recall an obscure detail. Some courtesans infused their guests' bathwater with crushed damask rose petals, believing the scent came closest to the legendary gardens of Persia. You wonder if rosewater's power lies in scent or story. 3 whispered jokes accompany your steps. These jars carry more weight than senatorial edicts. The fountain's drip is an eternal metronome, and your sandals squeak like a donkey's chorus at dawn. Back in your chamber, you refill the oil lamp and breathe in the cool tang of lavender. On the low table rests a small stash of chalk sketches. Today's inspiration, a halo braid inspired by Vestal Virgin's ceremonial coiffure. You trace its looping arcs and recall your scholarly aside. Historians still debate whether Vestal hairstyles directly influenced private fashion or remained cloistered within temple walls. A hushed knock heralds your first client, a young librarian from the Library of Alexandria's traveling wing, her robes dusted with papyrus fibers. You invite her in, offering honey and mint water and a cushion dyed the soft hue of sun-bleached parchment. As you gently smooth oil through her hair, she shares tales of scrolls unrolled beneath palace lamps and scholars debating philosophy until worn ink faded. You respond with a callback to Section 2's curse tablets. Imagine inscribing your own ideas on a tablet buried in the garden, hoping someone unearths them centuries later. She smiles, eyes bright behind the lamp's glow, and wonders if her own words might outlast any temple's stone. As she departs, thankful, thoughtful, and slightly fragrant, you pause by the fountain's edge, letting the first light of dawn warm your shoulders. The lavender sachet's scent lingers, soft as memory, and Neptune's mosaic watches you with timeless patience. You inhale the mingled scents of water, petals, and possibility, Then step into the waking city, ready to weave the next chapter beneath Rome's eternal stones. Twilight's lavender glow stretches across the Subura. As you step from your chamber, you probably won't make it through this evening's hush without that trusty sachet tucked into your tunic, but its gentle fragrance steadies your pulse. The chipped Neptune mosaic glimmers under torchlight, its trident catching each flicker as if urging you onward. You pause to smooth your tunic's folds and cradle your leather pouch, the coins inside a quiet testament to countless intimate encounters. Your first ritual tonight is refreshing the lavender sachets, blending in a touch of crushed damask rose, an echo of Section 23's Persian rose bath, so the scent carries both memory and novelty. You inhale deeply, letting the mingled aromas settle like a soft refrain. Here's your major historical fact. During the reign of Marcus Aurelius, 161 to 180 CE, legislation permitted meretrices to participate in communal guilds, granting them a semblance of collective bargaining power. Scholars still debate whether these guilds truly improved working conditions or merely reinforced imperial oversight. An obscure, cultural tidbit drifts through your mind. Some late-night providers strung tiny beads of carnelian at their doorways, said to catch candlelight and pique curiosity. Like a subtle ancient marquee, you imagine the bead's warm glow in your own threshold and tuck the idea away for future adornment. 3 light jokes buoy your steps. These beads sparkle more than a senator's signet ring. Lavender sachets hold out longer than most political reforms, and your sandals have tromped through more whispered secrets than any forum walls. A soft knock announces your first guests, twin potters from a workshop in Tibur, their hands still stained with clay. You usher them into your cool chamber, offering peppermint-spiked mulsum and cushions dyed the pale green of olive groves. As you gently work a perfumed cloth through their hair, they share tales of shaping amphorae for distant provinces, each vessel a journey's companion. You smile and offer a callback to Section 10's fish cake aromas. I'd trade garum for this minty breeze any day. They laugh, easing into a shared intimacy that transcends craft. You slip a small carnelian bead onto their doorway as a token of goodwill, a miniature marquee promising warmth within. When they depart, smiles and clay smudge thanks in tow, you stand by the fountain, inhaling the soft night air scented with lavender, rose, and mint. Neptune's mosaic gleams in the torchlight, and you murmur, "Rest easy, dear friends," before extinguishing your lamp and stepping into the Subura's velvet shadows. Pre-dawn mist drapes the alley like a silken veil as you emerge. You probably won't greet tomorrow's sunrise without that lavender sachet pressed close, but its familiar weight under your palm is comfort itself. The chipped Neptune mosaic glows faintly in the gray light, its enduring gaze a reminder that some things, like your nightly rituals, remain constant. You refill your oil lamp, its flame flickering to life, as if waking with you. Your first chore is fetching water from the fountain, this time mindful of the Aniovitus aqueduct, 272 BCE, Rome's oldest channel still in use, its ancient stones carrying life through centuries. Scholars still debate whether its initial construction was driven by necessity or public spectacle. Balancing 2 jars, you recall an obscure tidbit. Some courtesans added a drop of wild lavender essential oil to guests' bath water for a subtle caress of scent, calling it sleep's gentle herald. You imagine that ritual tonight, after your final guest. 3 subtle jokes accompany your steps. These jars weigh more than unspoken regrets. The fountain's drip is the world's most reliable metronome, and your sandals squeak more stories than any town crier. Back in your chamber, you refresh the lavender sachets and add a few crushed violet petals, a callback to Section 12's Midnight Beauty Myths. So the scent holds both depth and familiarity. You trace your finger over a new chalk sketch, a hairstyle weaving small conch shell horns into a low braid, inspired by Section 21's echo-calling horns, imagining whispered invitations carried through the walls. Here's tonight's major historical fact. Under Septimius Severus, 193-211 CE, a decree standardized brothel licensing fees across the empire, aiming to prevent price gouging. Scholars still debate whether this equality of cost empowered workers or merely capped their earnings. A quiet knock heralds your first visitor, a weary grain merchant, cloak dusted from the docks at Ostia. You guide him inside, offering honey and mint water and a seat on plush cushions scented with lavender and violet. As you gently comb his hair, he recounts tales of towering grain ships and the endless rhythm of loading and unloading, an echo of the empire's lifeblood. You lean in and murmur a callback to Section 24's carnelian beads. Imagine a doorway lit by flickers of red stone, guiding sailors home. His tired eyes brighten, and he offers you a grateful nod. You slip a small shellhorn charm into his pocket, an invitation for safe passage, whispering through distant corridors. When he departs, step lighter, charm in hand, you stand by the threshold, inhaling the mingled scents of lavender, mint, and violet. Neptune's mosaic watches as torchlight fades, and you murmur, "Sail safe, old friend," before extinguishing your lamp and slipping into the Sabura's dawn hush, ready to welcome whatever stories await. The Sabura's first light is a pale promise against the horizon. You probably won't withstand another dawn without pressing that lavender sachet to your chest, but its gentle fragrance is a steady lullaby. Neptune's chipped mosaic glows in soft morning rays, his trident gleaming with conspiratorial warmth as you refill your oil lamp, its wick flickering awake like the city itself. Your first chore is a swift pilgrimage to the communal bakery, where the scent of fresh panis quadratus blankets the alley. Here's a major historical fact to consider with your warm loaf. During the tumultuous year of the 4 emperors, 69 CE, grain shipments to Rome were disrupted, sparking bread riots that underscored how vital the Cura Annani remained. Scholars still debate whether those riots genuinely threatened the city's stability or were leveraged by ambitious generals seeking popular support. Balancing 2 square loaves in your arms, you share 3 light jokes with the baker. His bread is firmer than a centurion's glare, more reliable than Senate decrees, and twice as satisfying as last night's rosemary scraps. He winks and tosses you an extra roll for emergencies, and you tuck it away for a midday snack. On your return, the laundry banners overhead flutter like sleepy flags in a gentle breeze. An obscure, cultural tidbit drifts through your mind. Some courtesans threaded tiny amber beads into their hair, which caught candlelight and lent an illusion of glowing tresses. Ancient fiber optic flare. You muse whether amber might complement lavender's cool notes, and make a mental note to test it when calm returns. Back in your chamber, You refill your lavender sachets and layer in crushed rose hips, an echo of Section 14's coral tint trend, so the scent feels both familiar and enlivening. You place the fresh loaves on a wooden bench, the aroma mingling with oil's soft glow, and trace the chalk sketch of a braided crown inspired by Vestal hairstyles, Section 23. As you study the loops, you recall a scholarly aside. Historians still debate whether private coiffures ever truly mirrored Vestal ritual styles or remained aspirational. A soft rap on the door announces your first client, a robed actor from the theater of Marcellus, his face still streaked with stage-white makeup. You usher him inside, offering honey and mint water and a cushion dusted with violet petals. 3 subtle jokes follow. His makeup's contrast beats any Senate oratory. His dramatic flair rivals Caligula's dinner speeches, and his cloak smells fresher than last night's toga. As you deftly remove the remnants of grease paint, he regales you with backstage drama. Rival actors conspiring over roles, a chariot breakdown mid-performance in Pompeii, and a rumor that the emperor planned to star in the next tragedy. You laugh, imagining a toga-clad emperor stumbling onto stage, Rome's grandest improv, sharing a callback to Section 8's clandestine bath mirrors. You whisper, imagine painting those actors' tales onto the walls of private chambers. He grins, nodding at the artistry woven into every role, on stage or off. When he departs, coins in hand, spirit lifted, you pause by the fountain, inhaling the aromatic tapestry of lavender, rose, and honey. Neptune's mosaic seems to beam, trident raised in salute, as you tuck away your sachet and prepare for the midday sun's next gentle overture. Midday drapes the alley in golden warmth. You probably won't endure another hour without that lavender sachet at your waist, but its subtle scent is like a steady heartbeat. Neptune's chipped mosaic shimmers in the sun, his calm expression as reassuring as ever as you refill water jars from the fountain's clear flow. Ancient Aqua Claudia, delivering refreshment once more. Your first task is replenishing the lavender sachets, this time blending in a touch of crushed snail shell exfoliant powder, a nod to Section 7's beauty secret, so the sachets double as gentle skin treatments when tumbled against the body. You inhale the soft, mineral-tinged floral notes and smile at the ingenuity of small luxuries. Here's a major historical fact for the heat of high noon. In 80 CE, the colossal Colosseum was inaugurated with 100 days of games, placing entertainment at the empire's heart. Scholars still debate whether these spectacles unified the populace in shared awe or masked deeper social fractures. With gladiatorial diversion, balancing water jars and sachets, you share 3 light jokes with a passing fishmonger. His catch is fresher than Senate gossip, his scales shinier than a senator's polished armor, and his haggling beats any broker's pitch in the forum. He waves you on with a grin and a handful of salted olives, another barter for yesterday's olive offering tale, reminding you how generosity hums beneath city life. Back in your room, you arrange pastel cushions and refill the lamp, letting the ambient glow accentuate chalk sketches of lotus-inspired braids. Section 17. You pause to reflect on a scholarly uncertainty. Historians still debate whether Egyptian aesthetics truly influenced Roman coiffures, or if such tales were Roman imaginings of Eastern exoticism. A gentle knock signals your next guest, a traveling physician from Pergamum. scrolls of Hippocratic writings under his arm. You guide him inside, offering mint-spiked mulsum and a small bowl of barley porridge, both nourishing and light. 3 sly quips follow. His medical texts boast more prescriptions than a senator has advisors. His porridge is gentler on the stomach than his rhetorical diagnoses, and his robes still look starched despite dusty travels. As you braid his hair into gentle twists, he murmurs tales of healing rituals, poultices of crushed garlic for infections, honey salves for burns, and wine-soaked lint for pain. You listen, intrigued by the parallels between soothing flesh and soothing hearts. You share a callback to Section 12's Registry of Courtesans. Imagine if our healing herbs were registered like brothel fees. Perhaps then a lover's fever would earn civic protection. He laughs softly, pondering the irony. When he departs, scrolls secured, gratitude expressed. You stand by the fountain, inhaling the mingled scents of lavender, rose, and barley. Neptune's mosaic watches, trident raised in enduring salute, as you tuck away your sachets and ready yourself for the afternoon's next hushed chapter. Dawn's pale glow seeps through laundry banners as you slip from your chamber. You probably won't survive another sunrise without that lavender sachet pressed to your pulse, but its comforting weight steadies you. The chipped Neptune mosaic catches early light, its trident gleaming like a silent cheer. You refill your oil lamp, its wick flickering awake, like the city itself. Your first chore is retrieving fresh water from the fountain, whose flow now comes courtesy of the Julia Aqueduct Extension, 33 BCE, which improved water pressure across Rome. Scholars still debate whether these upgrades prioritized public health or simply showcased imperial engineering might. Balancing 2 clay jars, you recall an obscure tidbit. Some courtesans scented their water with crushed laurel leaves, believed to sharpen the mind and lend an air of Apollo's wisdom. You consider whether such a simple leaf might spice your own mornings. 3 light jokes buoy your steps. These jars feel heavier than a senator's forgotten promises. The fountain's drip is your personal metronome, and your sandals squeak louder than the forum's busiest gossip. Back in your chamber, you replenish lavender sachets with crushed laurel bits, an echo of ancient olfactory tricks, and arrange your hairpin collection. Today's chalk sketch is a delicate crown braid inspired by Apollo's laurel wreath, looping around the head like a quiet halo. You pause to reflect on one scholarly uncertainty. Historians still debate whether laurel-scented rituals genuinely enhanced memory or were merely symbolic pageantry. Your first client arrives, a traveling mosaic artist whose apron is speckled with tesserae. You guide him inside, offering honey and mint water and a cushion tinted the pale green of fresh laurel leaves. 3 subtle jokes follow. His mosaic patterns rival any senator's robe trim. His tesserae are shinier than a polished cuirass, and his footsteps leave more color than the painter's workshop. As you gently work mint-scented oil into his hair, he shares tales of piecing floor murals for patrician villas, tiny stones forming grand stories under his skilled hands. You respond with a callback to Section 23's Vestal-inspired coiffure. Imagine a mosaic of hair braided like laurel loops, ephemeral art atop living canvas. He nods, closing his eyes to savor the scent and sentiment. When he departs, coins in pouch, inspiration in mind, you stand by the fountain's edge, inhaling the mingled aromas of lavender, laurel, and mint. Neptune's mosaic watches with timeless patience as you tuck away your sachets and prepare for the next quiet chapter of Rome's living tapestry. Mid-morning sunshine warms the alley as you step outside. You probably won't survive the sun's climb without that lavender sachet behind your ear, but its soft fragrance is a faithful companion. The Neptune mosaic glints in dappled light, its trident poised in perennial welcome. You carry fresh water jars past fluttering linens, the air alive with distant calls of bakers and barbers. Your first task is to refresh the lavender laurel blend in your sachets, this time adding a whisper of crushed snail shell powder. Recall Section 28's laurel trick and Section 7's exfoliant lore for a layered sensory note. You inhale the complex bouquet and smile at human ingenuity. Here's your major historical fact. In 212 CE, the Emperor Caracalla's monetary reforms introduced a new silver coin, the Antoninianus, to address fiscal strains, inadvertently causing inflation that touched every trade. From bakers to meretrixes, scholars still debate whether these reforms stabilized the economy or accelerated its decline. 3 playful jokes accompany your stride. This Antoninianus feels lighter than a senator's apology. Your sachets last longer than many coin runs, and my sandals have weathered more devaluations than Rome's treasury. Back in your chamber, you trim the oil lamp's wick, letting its glow soften the walls. You study today's hairstyle sketch, an intricate plait, looping like the folds of a devalued coin, symbol of beauty amid economic flux. You recall your scholarly aside. Historians still debate whether monetary turmoil influenced hair trends. As patrons sought affordable luxuries, a gentle knock heralds your next guest, a vine tender from the Campanian vineyards, hands stained purple from grapes. You usher him inside, offering wine-sweetened water and a cushion, recalling Section 16's saffron glow experiment. 3 sly quips follow. His wine notes rival any perfume. His stained hands tell richer tales than any scroll, and his laughter resonates sweeter than the forum's rhetoric. As you comb grape-scented oil through his hair, he recounts tales of grape harvest festivals where dancers wove wreaths of ivy and laurel, reminiscent of Section 28's Apollo motifs. You lean in and murmur a final callback. Imagine braiding those vines into your hair, living wreaths for mortal vineyards. He grins, eyes sparkling with the vivid imagery. When he departs, grateful, fragrant, coins in hand, you step to the fountain, inhaling the mingled scents of lavender, laurel, and grape. Neptune's mosaic gleams in approval, trident raised in salute, as you ready yourself for the evening's next whispered tales beneath Rome's eternal stones. Evening's soft indigo veil drapes the subura as you step into the corridor. Lamps gutter in welcoming arcs, and you probably won't survive the coming night without that lavender laurel snail sachet tucked into your belt, but its layered scent is now as familiar as your own heartbeat. Neptune's chipped mosaic gleams under torchlight, its trident casting elongated shadows that dance along the cobblestones like silent heralds for your final act of the day. You pause to adjust your tunic's folds and cradle your leather pouch, the gentle weight of coins and charms, a quiet echo of every story told within these walls. Your first task tonight is to prepare the chamber for your last guests. You refill the oil lamp, its flame a steadfast pulse in the hush, and arrange cushions dusted with violet petals and crushed damask rose, recalling Section 24's floral blend and Section 23's lilac-lavender duet. You hang tiny bronze mirrors on opposite walls and homage to Section 22's infinite light trick, so that a single flame multiplies into a kaleidoscope of soft illumination, transforming your modest room into a miniature palace of glow. Here's your final major historical fact for the journey. In 312 CE, Constantine's Edict of Milan legalized religious freedom, altering Rome's moral landscape and indirectly shifting attitudes toward private pleasures, including visits to lupanaria. Scholars still debate whether increased religious scrutiny curtailed the profession or simply drove it underground, cloaking it in new rituals and symbols. An obscure cultural whisper drifts through your mind. After Constantine's decree, some providers incorporated Christian symbols, a discreet fish pendant or a cross carved in wax, hoping to balance newfound faith with ancient trades. You imagine the quiet tension of carrying both olive and lavender oil to such clients, and tuck the thought away like a secret prayer. 3 light jokes accompany your preparations. These mirrors reflect more intrigue than the Senate's hidden agendas. Lavender sachets outlast even the most devout fasting week, and my sandals have paced more crossroads than any pilgrim's sandals. A soft knock heralds your final duo, a pair of traveling minstrels whose lyres and voices once echoed in the forum. You usher them in, offering honeyed wine spiced with coriander and cushioned seats scented with violet and mint, a fitting overture to their day's end. As you work, they recount tales of songs sung before emperors, of crowds stirred to tears by mournful melodies, and of laughter shared under starlit skies. You brush scented oil through their hair, each stroke a silent note in the evening's composition. You lean in to share one scholarly uncertainty. Historians still debate whether these entertainers wielded greater influence than rhetors, or simply served as distraction from politics. They laugh, adjusting their cloaks, now softened by rosewater, and you catch the faint gleam of gratitude in their eyes. When they depart, lyres slung at their backs, voices hushed with contentment, you close the door and extinguish the lamp's flame. Outside, the courtyard's fountain murmurs its steady lullaby, and the laundry banners ripple like applause in the night breeze. You stand before Neptune's mosaic, one last time, offering a silent nod, our shared witness to 30 days of dawns and dusks. Smoothing your tunic, you murmur, "Farewell for now, old friend," and step into the alley's embrace, ready to rest beneath Rome's eternal stones. The oil lamps have dimmed, and the Suburra sounds have softened into a gentle hush. Your own footsteps echo softly against the cobblestones as you find a quiet nook beneath fluttering laundry banners. The night air is cool, scented faintly with lavender, rose, and crushed laurel, a final olfactory tapestry, weaving threads of every encounter into a single tapestry of memory. Above, the stars shimmer like distant lanterns guiding lost travelers, and the fountain's soft drip becomes a lullaby more comforting than any song. Close your eyes and feel the weariness of the day melt away with each measured breath. Inhale the cool night. Imagine the rhythmic flow of Rome's aqueducts filling your lungs with ancient history. Exhale the weight of coins and charms, letting them settle into the leather pouch of your dreams. Every stone around you holds a story of whispered confidences, stolen caresses, and fragrant offerings. And now, in the stillness, those stories become gentle echoes in your mind. Allow your thoughts to drift. The early morning glow over Neptune's mosaic, the sun-warmed courtyards, alive with laughter and song, the hush of lantern-lit evenings scented with violet petals. Picture each scene as a grain of colored sand slipping through your fingers, settling into a timeless mosaic of experience. Let the memory of whispered jokes and scholarly asides become a soft hum at the edge of consciousness, a reminder that even in history's grand currents, small moments carry profound resonance. As your breathing slows and your heartbeat steadies, imagine a final wisp of lavender smoke drifting skyward, carrying your cares away. The Sabura rests now, and so shall you, cradled by the city's ancient embrace, lulled by the fountain's lullaby, and enveloped in the softest quiet. Good night, gentle traveler. May your dreams wander through marble halls and starlit courtyards, finding rest in the heart of Rome.